guys, and welcome back to my channel. For those who don't follow me on Instagram, I'm going to be doing an answering question Q&A off of my Instagram questions box. So I did just get my hair done, so I am feeling myself. I went jet black and I'm so excited about it. But if you're not from Instagram, we are going to be answering any advice or questions that some supporters wanted to know, so stay tuned. We're just gonna hop right into it as all of my videos, not too much chit chat beforehand, if you know what I mean. The first question is, how do I balance being a content creator and working full-time when you did? If you watched my previous video, you know that I'm not working full-time in sales anymore and that I am currently just doing content creation, and there was no such thing as balance when I was doing it. So anyone who is thinking about being a creator while working full-time, there is no perfect balance. So take it easy on yourself. I really like creating as a hobby. Creating is a hobby to me because I loved communication, and growing up I wanted to be a television host or anchor. I felt like creating my own content through my Instagram platform, TikTok, and other modalities allowed me to use that passion for speaking and connecting with people and talking. And I like to joke, I like to play around, and I like aesthetics. Being able to use that energy and put it into something outside of my 9-to-5 job was really important to me. So there was no such thing as balance, but I did really enjoy doing both of them. I will say now that I don't work full-time in sales and I was focusing on content creation, I will say that content creation is a lot more work, especially when you're putting your all into it, because it's 1 YouTube video a week, it's 3 TikToks a day, it's 4 Instagram posts a week. There's always something that you're creating. Especially connecting with people, I want to actually make content that's authentic. So if you're thinking about making content, don't just make content just to make it. Make sure that you're doing something that you love so that you can impact the people who potentially have the same love. I think that the space, it's never too saturated. There's always going to be a lane for people, but I think that going into it hoping to get just brand deals and just because you want to post pretty pictures, you might not feel as good as if you had something that you actually want to share with people, and it might be harder to keep up with consistency if it's not something you really love. That's my advice. There's no such thing as balance. There are days where you're gonna feel exhausted. There's days where you're not gonna want to put yourself out there, but if you truly actually like creating content and connecting with people, you'll definitely find your way. Question number 2 is, how is dating in LA? I live in Los Angeles, California, and to be honest, I feel like I don't really date people in the city of Los Angeles. Especially when I first moved out here, I was dating people from like back home in Texas or like in different states, and that's kind of how I've always dated. I don't always date people local to me, but I have noticed, being from the South, I grew up in Dallas, Texas for the most, well, not the most part, but I lived in Dallas, Texas before I came to LA. And I think Southern hospitality, especially in men, is a real thing. There's always gonna be men who can cater to a woman, but I will say when I first was going out in LA that the men were a little bit more docile. I feel like it's because a lot of men here perceive that they have more status, or perceive that maybe it's because we're around more celebrities or people from television that they get the impression that they're solely the prize. So I feel like in LA, I've noticed that more men expect the women to approach, but you will also get your fair share of men who approach you. You just might not like them. I think dating in any city is gonna be easy or hard just depending on what you want. I think what I want doesn't necessarily align with the LA values. I want to be in a relationship and only focus on that man. And you know, I'm not of things of this world. I'm really disciplined, and I don't drink a lot, but when I do, I like to have a good time. But I'm not focused on social climbing and status. Those things don't matter to me. I'm focusing on finding someone who wants to live the same kind of life as me. I want to say that dating in LA is horrible. I think when you say something like that, you're going to perpetuate it. It just might not be aligned with what you're looking for, and that's the problem. So anyone who is coming out here in LA, there's also so many different cities within LA. When I first got here, I was like, oh, LA is just one place. There's not. There's West Hollywood, there's Beverly Hills, there's the Valley, there's Santa Monica, there's Venice, and you will find that all of these people from these different cities are so completely different. You want a beach bro, you go to Venice, you go to Santa Monica. You might find reality television stars in Hollywood. It just depends on what kind of guys that you like. Like me, I like the men that I like, and I like men who will really value God and have, strong moral values and are, successful and hardworking. It just might not be the same values as here in LA, if you're catching my drift. Next question is, what do I look for in a partner? I feel like this kind of is off of what I was just talking about. What I look for in a partner is someone who has a really good idea of who they are. They're not easily influenced by other people. They have a very strong relationship with God. they're driven, they're ambitious, they're into wellness, because that is something that I'm very much into, is health and wellness, and I want my man to align with that. Finding someone who has a really strong foundation and is always learning. I want someone who, because my brain, it works a mile per minute. Like, I'm always go, 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 go. I'm always watching podcasts. I'm always trying to read something. I'm always trying to learn something. I'm always trying to absorb something. I talk fast, I walk fast, I eat fast, as you can tell. I need someone who's going to keep up or do better than me. One thing that I do look for in a man is I want my man to be better than me, because I want to learn from them. And some people don't care. They're like, I like this man because of this. But for me, I have to date my IQ or higher. You really have to be better than me, because if I'm not learning something from you, or you can't keep up with the way that my mind's moving, or you're not as disciplined as me, I'll eventually be really turned off. That's what I look for in a man. The next question someone asked is, I've never been in a relationship and want to feel comfortable with putting myself out there. How do I do that? That's such a beautiful question. First thing is, you made the decision already. So if you want to put yourself out there, the first step that you have to make is making the decision to want to put yourself out there, because it's going to change your energy. When you know you're looking for something, or you know you want something, you're more likely to see it, and it's more likely to come to you. So I think it's about having the positive mindset of, I'm open to dating, and if something comes my way, I'm going to be able to accept that. We have been fed this lie that men aren't good men anymore. You know, you're going to get played. You can only get played if you allow yourself to get played. The man who isn't good or isn't going to treat you right can only not treat you right as many times as you allow him to not treat you right. So putting yourself out there is going to look like maybe smiling more when you're in public. I had a big problem with this because I have the worst RBF in the entire world. Ask anybody. It's horrible. But I'm the nicest person ever. And men can find it intimidating. Maybe they think that you're closed off. So the first thing that you need to do is just make sure that you are opening yourself up energetically. It's, being more soft and smiling. Don't have to stare at people like this, but it's just, you're in a public place, just looking like you're friendly enough to approach and have conversation with. That's the first step. I'm also a very strong believer in everything that you want, you can get. I believe anything that you want, you can get. Now, it might not be when you want it. That's the caveat. It might not be exactly when you want it, but you will get everything that you want if you're patient. The thing is that I've always done is I write a list of exactly what I want in a man. And then when I'm dating someone or when I'm considering something, I look at this list and I remind myself, does this person have this? Are they working towards it? Will they never be able to accomplish this or have this attribute? I look at this list, I refer to this list, and then I go back to how I'm feeling and I say, you know what? I really want something that's on this list and that they will never have. Maybe it's a mindset thing, maybe it's relationship with God, whatever it is. And that's how I decide who I want to move forward with and not move forward with. And I think it's really important because emotions are so fleeting. They will come and they will go. You'll like a guy one day and then a year down the road, you'll not like him. And it's like the things that you fell in love with have to be a foundational thing. It has to be the things, not just his personality and the chemistry, it actually has to be the substance that he has. Consider that more when you're dating. And I know it's harder when you're younger because everyone kind of wants to play. But I think as you mature and as you continue to put yourself out there in a positive way, it will be received and people will also respect you more. If you have boundaries and you have standards, people really respect that, especially men. I'm proud of you for putting yourself out there and you should. And if you go on a date, let me know. I also want to add on is be confident. Confident is not something that you're born with. So don't think that it's this thing where, oh, this girl's confident and I'm not confident. You create confidence. So I want you to know that if you're putting yourself out there or you're going into a public space and you're opening yourself up for potential conversation, act like you're that girl because you are that girl. And whether or not you feel like you're that girl on the inside, no one knows that. No one knows. Whatever's on the outside is what people see. So just really have that confidence in yourself and be sure of yourself. That actually leads me to the next question that someone asked, which is advice on how you learned or are learning to trust yourself in your decisions. Being sure of yourself and trusting yourself, they kind of go hand in hand. It took a while for me to really understand this process, but from a young age, I think that I always knew what I wanted. And a lot of us know what we want. I think we lie to ourselves based maybe on your environment and what other people tell you, or maybe it's the school systems that you went to, or maybe it's the friend groups that you have. We start to lie to ourselves and say, do we really want that? Or maybe we should want this because this person has it. One thing about me when I was younger, if I didn't get my way, it was my way or the highway. And when you're a kid, of course, that comes off like that bad kid, that spoiled kid. But as you get older, you start to learn you're that way for a reason. I never settled as a kid. If I wanted a Coach bag and I was 12 years old and my mom said, no, you're not getting a Coach bag, guess what? I was riding a bike to work at a deli till I saved up to get that Coach bag. And I think things like that, and again, it can be viewed as, oh, this kid is spoiled, or this kid is, you can't tell this kid no. It's not that. It's about starting to learn myself and understand myself. And throughout the years, I was someone who I always wanted exactly what I wanted, and I wasn't willing to settle. And I think that proved like a track record of me being really ambitious about what I want, and that I was having to do things that weren't really mainstream to get what I want. Paying for some of my own stuff, or, giving my parents money and saying, hey, can I get this, if I really wanted to, as a way to convince them. I was like very convincing, which is why I went into sales, because I like to tell people, this is what you should have, this is what you should want, you should get this, because that's what I would want. Knowing yourself is the first thing. So look at your childhood, look at your habits, and start to understand, why do I do things the way that I do them? And that's gonna give you a good sense of what you innately want. That's really important, is understanding why you innately want things. For me, I like nice things. I have since I was a kid, so I'm starting to understand like, hey, okay, you're willing to put in the work to get nice things. It's not just gonna be, I expect nice things. It's, I'm a hard worker. And that's something that I attribute throughout my childhood. Next thing that I would say about how to really trust yourself is you have to make sure that you're always doing what you say you're gonna do. If you tell yourself you're gonna start something, you need to actually start that thing. If you say that you're gonna do XYZ today, you need to actually do that thing. Trust in yourself comes from accomplishing things and doing everything that you say. People start to build mistrust, which also lowers their confidence when they say they're gonna do things and they don't do them. Trusting yourself and knowing yourself is about unpacking everything that you see consistently happening to you. It's about sticking to your word, doing what you say you're gonna do. And then also it's knowing if you're gonna take a big leap, the way to trust yourself is to know that there is no wrong decision. There is no wrong emotion, and there is no such thing as a wrong decision. There's only a decision, and you make it right. It's this idea that, oh, if I went to this college instead of this college, I would be a different way. You'll never know. It's about making the college that you picked, or making the decision to move to the city that you picked, the right decision, and that's how you trust yourself. So if I say I want to get up and I want to move to a different country, whether or not that's the right decision to somebody else, I'm gonna make it the right decision, whether it is for a year, whether it's for 2 years. You have to make things the right decision. There's no such thing as a wrong decision. And then this also goes back to the idea of nothing happens by accident. Whenever you make a decision and you act on it, it's happening the way it's supposed to be. There are no mistakes in this life. So it's teaching you something, it's pushing you away from something, it's pushing you towards something. That's how you learn to trust yourself, because there's no such thing as a wrong decision. I hope that empowers you. We're gonna kind of switch gears, and now this one is a hair question. Someone said, do you have a goal with your natural hair, and have you ever considered wigs or U-part wig? My goal with my natural hair is I want to grow it out. It's pretty long now, but I want to maintain the length. I want to maintain my natural curl pattern, so I don't do relaxers, and I want to put as least heat on it as possible. So that's why I like to wear sew-ins. That's why I like to wear braids, because even if I put heat on my leave out, it's not my entire head. So people ask why I don't get silk presses and why I don't just like wear my natural hair, and it's because I don't want to apply heat to my whole head if I don't have to, because maybe a couple years down the line when I want to actually wear my hair natural, I don't want to have the whole entire head of damaged hair. I'd rather have damaged leave out, cut it, and then grow that out while the rest of my hair is still natural. I also have 4C very kinky curly hair, and it's a very difficult hairstyle to maintain. All my curly girls will say that. It's a difficult hairstyle to maintain. It takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of love, and I honestly don't have a lot of effort right now to put into my hair. Love a good sew-in. You wake up, straighten it up, touch it up, bump it up, boom. As far as wigs, I'm not opposed to a wig, but I'm not for a wig, because one thing I have seen is lace. People always talk about what lace. I'm like, girl, the one on your head, the one I can see. And of course, it's not gonna be obvious to everybody, but I'm a Black woman. When I see a lace, I know it's a lace, and it's not a bad thing, but I personally just don't want that for myself, because I know I don't wear makeup a lot, and sometimes with the laces you can see it, da-da-da-da. Also, U-part wigs, I think I would be open to a U-part wig as long as it's sewn down, but it's pretty much the same thing as a sew-in at that point, unless you're like switching them out. You still have a leave out, you still, have to sew it down, so I might as well just get a sew-in, in my opinion. Overall, my goal is just to maintain my hair the way it is now and put as least heat on it as possible so that I can just wear it in the future if I want to. Next question someone asked is, what is life in LA like? I will say this is such a big question, and maybe I should do a whole different video on this because there's just so much to say. Life in LA is very unique. For me, being a Southern girl, grew up in Maine and Dallas, so I guess East Coast and Southern girl, I'm used to a different way of life. One, the weather here is so amazing. It's It's like nothing I've ever experienced. I'm so spoiled now. If I go to Texas, it's too hot. If I go to Maine, it's too cold. If I go out of the country, it's too this, it's too that. LA weather's always perfect. I don't care what anyone says. It's the most amazing thing ever. Living in LA is the ability to get up and go pretty much at any point of the year outside. Despite the sun setting early in the wintertime, you can always be outside. It's always nature around you in LA because there's just so many hills and so many mountains and so many areas to explore. I will say LA is also the kind of place that you have to get used to living here because it's a completely different way of life, even just in the creative sense. LA is like a creative hub. It's where a lot of production companies are. It's where a lot of artists live. It's like where a lot of artists record. It's a very creative city, and there's a lot of different places within LA where it's just such a creative scene, and I'm a creative, so I love it. But you know, someone from Texas might be like, what is this club? You know, where someone from here is like, this is the coolest club in the world. And it's like everyone's sitting around and everyone is so unique in LA. I absolutely love it. LA is a place for people who are shamelessly themselves and they don't have to fit into a box. And there's not a lot of judgment, honestly. I've gone to places and you walk in and there's someone in sweatpants and Uggs and another person in like a dress and a gown with diamonds on. Like, there is a range, or like there's someone who looks like they could potentially be homeless, but they're not homeless, or that's their style. And then someone who's dressed in a suit. Like, there is so much range as far as individuality, the way that people want to present, and I love that about LA. I will say that LA is also the place that there's always something to do because it is a hub for entertainment. There's comedy clubs, there's movie premieres, there's influencer events, there's clubs, there's bars, there's Universal Studios, there's Disneyland. Like, you always have something to do. And if you're in a smaller city, there's not always something to do. And you also have access to almost every store. I'm making LA sound like some magical land. There's a lot of cons to LA as well, and I'll get into honestly some of those cons right now. The cost of living, it's extremely expensive. When I first came here, gas was $7. Let that sink in. Now it's more like $5, sometimes $6, but it's very expensive to live a really great quality of life here in LA unless you're willing to settle and sacrifice in some areas. Even apartments, like, you're not gonna get an apartment in one of the cities, i.e. West Hollywood, one of the main cities that people crowd in, unless you're willing to start rent at like $2,500. Unless you wanna live in like a 600, 500 foot studio apartment. So it's kind of similar to New York in the sense that it's very expensive. Now, if you go out further on the outskirts of LA and you go into like more places like the Valley, or even downtown actually has some more affordable places, then the trade-off is you're gonna be surrounded by homelessness. And that's one thing that I will say about LA is there's a really bad homeless population here. It's really sad. It's actually very jarring, especially if you're from cities that there's not a lot of homeless people. You will come to LA and you'll be very shocked. And a lot of them do drugs. I remember when I first saw Skid Row, it absolutely broke my heart, and it actually gave me a lot of anxiety. And sometimes that can make you feel like you're in danger just being alone on the sidewalk with someone who is having a drug episode. So those are some things to consider. You know, some of the apartments are going to be older, especially if you want to live in like Venice and Santa Monica. They have much older apartments and they're still going to be charging you 27 plus to live in a place with no in-unit washer and dryer. Move to New York, because at least you'll be in the major city. I just can't fathom. It's actually insane. And also, we all know the economy's changing, so that's part of it. But whatever. There's a lot of great things about LA in the sense that it is a creative place. It's beautiful. The weather's really nice. Someone asked advice for someone thinking about moving to LA. This plays into it. The first thing, I'm just gonna go down a bullet point list. The first thing is know who you are and know what you want to do in LA. This will help you to pick the actual places that you want to settle in and be in. Again, I said there's a really big mix of people, so you just want to know yourself, and you want to know what you want out of LA. That's the major thing. Some advice is if you want to pay more of like a normal standard cost of rent, I would say find an apartment outside of the major cities. So let's find places that are maybe like an hour outside of LA or 45 minutes outside of what's considered LA, because you are going to get a really good cost of living. Or live downtown. There are much better prices downtown, but again, downtown, they consider it the Walking Dead. There's a lot of homelessness out there, but you are going to be able to get some better pricing than if you're living in like West Hollywood, and that's not all of LA. There's so many, there's Inglewood, there's Compton, there's different places. But as far as like people coming here for what they want to consider the LA lifestyle, living further out is going to give you a better bang for your buck. Seek people who enjoy the same things that you do. I think that finding friends in LA was hard at first. I knew a couple people, but It was hard at first because I was doing all of the wrong things. I wasn't going to the places that really filled me up. And then when I started, going on my hikes and, doing my workout classes, that's when I actually started to find my tribe and then friends of friends. So being able to go and do the things that you love and try to befriend people in those places. Don't go to the places that are popping and try to befriend people in spaces that you actually don't like. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but a lot of people do that. They'll go to a club and try to make friends in the club, and it's like, you really don't know what this person is, who they are, and what they're coming for, and their intentions. You always want to find people in the spaces. If you love to read, maybe go to a library or like find a reading club or a book club, whatever it may be, and then find your people in the spaces, even if it's church, where you want to be. Last thing I would say about someone who's considering move to LA is take advantage of the outdoors. You are gonna be in a place that is beautiful 99% of the time. So make sure you're doing the hikes, make sure you're exploring, make sure you're getting outside of just the main major cities, because there's so beautiful wineries, a couple hours away. There's Napa Valley. Of course, you're gonna have to drive pretty far for that if you're in LA, but take advantage of being in such a beautiful state and make sure that you're accounting for the cost of living. The cost of living here is gonna be very different. Like groceries are gonna be more expensive. So just make sure that if you're coming over with a remote job, that what you're being paid, you can make sure that you can justify here, because the taxes are going to eat you up. When I tell you the taxes will eat you up, and I'm grown or something, because now I'm considering taxes for where I live. Ooh, child. Those are some things to just think about. That's gonna be the last question that I answer in this video, just so I don't make it too long. If you have any future videos that you would like to see me do, or have any more advice or questions that you guys have, I'd love to answer them in video form, especially long form. I hope you guys liked the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Mwah.